Time's up, Admiral.
Here it comes.
All kids out of the pool for Adult Swim. All kids out.
Lego Lord of the Rings Balrog raised eyebrows for what some fans say is an unfortunate pose. I see it. I see it. Oh, I see it. It's taking a piss on Gandalf.
You shall not!
And he says to her, listen, you got a fine white girl ass.
Before you go, one question.
Yes?
Where in the galaxy is Sanusi?
Show us your tits and I'll tell you.
I think I've died and gone straight to honker heaven. Boobs are amazing.
Hail and howdy to the gatekeepers. That's right, the chat. You guys are now the gatekeepers. After yesterday's little fun end of the stream. Hail and howdy all. Welcome to the Daily Dive, the Double Ds, where you, the chat, the audience, the gatekeepers are in charge. See, that kind of works well. The gatekeepers are in charge. You decide what happens. You decide how things go because that's the gatekeeper's job, to keep out the riffraff. It's your job. Anyway, hope you guys are having a good Wednesday. We are halfway through the week. I'm doing all right. I crashed out early last night. Boom, I was tired, had a bit of a headache, took something. It took a while for it to fade. I laid down and I fell asleep, but I made a mistake when I fell asleep. I probably shouldn't tell this story because it's going to create all kinds of bad jokes, but I have to entertain you somehow. I fell asleep and I left Dermy's stream on last night when I fell asleep. And in my dreams, when somebody was talking, whatever Dermy was saying is what they were saying, and it made no sense in the dream I was having. It made no sense whatsoever. It's like some random person in the dream is talking, and it's literally whatever Dermy was saying in that moment on the stream because I left it on and I passed out, and it just filtered in. And so it was like maybe some VTuber nonsense or something else. I don't know. It was just really strange. And I realized what's going on here. This is not normal. So there you go. Let the jokes I have now set up for you fly. But anyway, we are here. It is Wednesday. It is a Warhammer Wednesday. Kel has sent us $20. Time is construct. Today's video will be a lore video about the eras. Let me bring it up. The exact title is an Arbiter Ian video. Ages of the Imperium from 30K to 40K. Timeline of the Imperium of Man. Warhammer 40K. Yeah, this should be a good one. I'm very interested in this one. I love a good history video. I love it. Give me context to things. So that'll be later on, but the rules remain the same either way. Even though it's Warhammer Wednesday, the rules still apply if you guys wish to shape the show in your image. $5 gets you an Adam rant on just about anything. Usually pop culture makes it better. Even though there are a lot of political things to talk about these days, we tend to steer away from that kind of stuff. $10 gets you a question. Ask me a question. I will tell you no lies. You ask the question, I'll talk about it. We'll go back and forth, have an in-depth, deep discussion. You get your money's worth. Could be serious, could be silly, and I will do my best to answer. We like to try and keep it within the realm of the entertainment stuff. Nothing existential or political. I ask you, please don't do that. $15 gets you an instant hot take reaction to one of the articles that we may see during the news segment. I can guarantee there are 2 articles I have pulled out for myself to discuss for my parts of the show today. And then $20 is the good old-fashioned Adam Reacts to Something, which is Warhammer Wednesday today. We get one of those. But, of course, it is not limited to that. You can do whatever you want. And $30 gets you a chat, maybe watch this review. It's one we did yesterday, Cats 2019. And another one has been ordered. But I made a mistake, and I must apologize. I said we'll do it for Thursday, but Predator Badlands isn't even out yet. I thought it came out last week. So Predator Badlands has not even hit theaters yet. So we're going to have to push that one to next week. We're gonna have to push it to next week because I can't go see it tomorrow or for tomorrow. I can't see it in any way, shape, or form. It's not out yet. So we have to wait for that one. But you will get it. You will get a chat, maybe watch his reviews of Predator Badlands. You might even get a tease of it this weekend because I know Dre is going to go see it. So if I can manage to watch it before Roundtable, I will discuss it a little bit with Dre then and there. We'll see what happens. I promise nothing. I won't lie to you. I promise nothing. But we will likely have it for Monday next week because I will have time at some point this weekend to watch it. Anyway, there's the rules. You guys know them. You guys use them all the time. Let's see. How do we want to do this? We're going to go a segment for me. The news. Another segment from me, unless you guys interrupt it. And then we'll do Warhammer Wednesday lore video. So this is interesting now. Let me have a drink real quick. Excuse me. I got to keep it all moist. We got some fun news yesterday, but the reactions have been positive. But I will be positive, but I will temper your expectations. Why? Last night in the wee hours, somehow when I stopped playing Tactics last night, I was doing the rounds before we got. Oh, actually, no, I did it. No, I didn't do it before. I did it after. It was after I was done playing 14 and before I went to lay down and make that headache go away. There was an announcement yesterday that the Mummy... Sorry. There was an announcement yesterday that the Mummy franchise, the good one with Brendan Fraser, ain't quite done. That's right. It has been announced that Mummy 4 with Brendan Fraser and returning Rachel Weisz they're going to try and make it happen. Negotiations have begun. Filmmakers Matt Bentinelli, Open, and Tyler Gillette, who call themselves Radio Silence, are set to direct the 4th film. These 2 guys are best known for 2019's Ready or Not and reviving the Scream franchise for Paramount in 2022. That's pretty much all we know. There are no details on the story. We don't know if Dead Fair is coming back. I hope Andre Voslo doesn't come back because Emotep's story is done. Let's not do that. But this is cool because the Mummy franchise, well, 2/3 of it at the moment are fantastic. If you haven't seen it, but myself and Jed with a guest, Green Hand Anti-Liberal gal, one of our good friends, she joined us and we did a Saturday night drive-in about a year or so ago, I think, of The Mummy. You can go check that out. It's on the playlist right here on the channel or on Jed's channel, Hollywood Scholar. And we haven't gotten around to Mummy Returns, but I have my copies. They're there. Frankly, I recently rewatched them back in April, back to back, Mummy Returns, and fun, pure fun. These movies are great. Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz were fantastic in it. But there was a problem. And here's where I'm going to be objective, and I'm going to remind everybody that Mummy 3, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, was dog shit. That movie was terrible. Anybody that says it is good, they're a liar. They're a complete liar. And one of the reasons it was bad is because Rachel Weisz didn't come back, and I forget who they brought in, but it didn't work. The entire movie was garbage. So this is good news. It means, hey, let's get more Brendan Fraser. Rachel Weisz is still hot. Evie O'Connell. The O'Connell's coming back. Be great. Now, can Brendan Fraser get into Rick O'Connell's shape? I don't know. I do not know if Brendan Fraser can get into Rick O'Connell shape because Brendan Fraser did his stunts in those 2 movies. He was the one doing that shit. So if he can get back into Rick O'Connell shape, awesome. Rachel Weisz, still hot. She did her own choreography too. Great. I'm excited. But there is the problem. Mummy 3, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. This movie, in my opinion, needs to pretend Tomb of the Dragon Emperor never happened. You need to omit and retcon out Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. You have to do this because that is a stain on the franchise. Now, and I will say this is a franchise because you got 2 movies, horrible 3rd movie, and even a cartoon, a limited time cartoon on Kids WB back in the day before it was CW. That wasn't received very well. They brought back Emotep. They brought back Anaxunamun in some stupid kitty type stuff. It wasn't good. I watched a few episodes when it premiered. I was like, oh, this is terrible. I can't watch this. It's horrible. And it was canceled after a season. Point is, this is a franchise, but it's a franchise that has been dormant since a shitty 3rd movie. And if you're going to resurrect it with the 2 original stars, Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz, that's a good thing. Rachel Weisz coming back, it's a good thing. But you must get rid of the existence of Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. But Adam, Jet Li's great. No, he wasn't in that. Terrible movie. Awful movie. Just terrible. This will be great. I'm sure this is going to be a good movie. But it'll be better if you just... Because here's how bad Tomb of the Dragon Emperor was. The movie opens with Evie O'Connell telling a story of all this stuff and saying, well, some of that was fiction. And then it says, well, that wasn't really Mia. And as the book comes down, it's the chick who replaced Rachel Weisz. I forget who it was. But you have to eliminate all of that because it insulted the first 2 movies by doing that. It insulted Rachel Weisz's excellent portrayal of Evie O'Connell. And you then shit on it. Now, of course, there are more than just Egyptian mummies, but I would say let's keep it in Egypt. Let's do some more Egyptian lore. Let's do that. Let's not try and do Chinese lore. That didn't work. All I want is for this to be fun. So a lot of people are excited. Yes, let's go. Let's do. Yeah. I'm going to, as always, as everybody should, temper your expectations. This is a good start. Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz. You want to make it cooler, bring back Oded Fair. He's still kicking. He still looks good. Oded Fair's awesome. He's a badass. He could be badass. But let's understand they made a shitty movie in this franchise. This could resurrect it and save it. And also, they need to be careful what they do with the kid. I forget the kid's name. Forget what the son's name is, but they need to be careful because he was heavily the adult version of him was heavily involved in the 3rd one. You need to be very careful with what you do. First of all, don't bring back the dude that played him. Don't do that. That's a good way to push past Dragon Emperor. But you need to be very careful. So this is cool. I've got some minor excitement, but my hopes are tempered because we do not know if they're going to make the right choices. And the right choice is retcon away Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Don't call it Mummy 4. Mummy 3 wasn't called Mummy 3. It was called The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. None of them have numbers behind them. There's The Mummy, Mummy Returns, Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, and now this one. So considering there are no numerical attachments to any of the titles, you can retcon away Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. And nobody will care. Because it was a bad movie. So good luck. I look forward to this. We're probably not going to see this until my guess is 2027. If they're first in negotiations now, negotiations are going to take a few months. Brendan Fraser is going to have to get in the shape. And then they got to hammer out some scripts and start doing this and that. And production probably won't go in production until next summer, is my guess. And then next spring or summer. Probably summer, fall, honestly. So we're not going to see this till 2027. Any earlier than that. So hopefully they make the right choices. And as I said, the right choice is retcon away Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, pretend we have got nothing has happened since the end of Mummy Returns, where they fly away in the airship with the giant golden diamond encrusted pyramid top and having fun, asking what did heaven look like? Why don't you ask me? It's a good movie. I love that movie. It's like a video game. That's why I love it. Mummy Returns is like a video game. It's just fun. Anyway, I look forward to this. See what happens. All right, we're done with that for now. So yeah. It could be good. They should do that. God, no more. Remember, I mean, I didn't even talk about the spin-offs of Scorpion King because you don't, because they're all garbage. And Scorpion King isn't even Mummy. So yeah, well, they're I don't think they're gonna do a younger cast. I mean, Norse Mummy, jeez. Nah. I think Brendan Fraser can get in shape for it. I mean, a bunch of them recently reunited at a convention. There's a picture going around out there. So I mean, good for Brendan Fraser. Good for him. Rachel Weisz doesn't need work. She has her money, and also her retarded husband has his money, fake Bond money. But listen, let's just temper our expectations. A lot of people are excited about this. Let's temper expectations. Remember, the third movie was garbage. It was not good. Anyway, so there's that. You guys seem pretty low key on it. So let's get to the news. Let's go to the news. See what's going on in the world. Let's refresh as always, just to be sure everything is up to date. Before I get to my next segment, because my next one is also important. It's important to me. All right, let's pick up the ruse because I know how to YouTube. All right, here we go. Variety. Strong films from the Middle East don't give a fuck about strong films from the Middle East. Judge again tosses Blake Lively's claims against social media operative Jed Wallace. Don't care. She's a bad person. They're all idiots. 1-to-1, John. I don't want to hear about anything. Fuck John and Yoko fucking. Oh my God, no. I don't give a fuck. No. K-pop Demon Hunters, Sinners, and Hamnet artisans on collaborating directors and having authenticity on set. K-pop Demon Hunters was animated. It voice acted on set. There was no set. Chopped creators, don't care. New documentary Oscar campaign stop launches in London. These are things I don't care about. I don't know who this is. They're talking about the guy Paramount Skydance. Don't care. We talked about it yesterday. Don't care. Sony and Pixomondo unveil new virtual production soundstage at Saudi Arabia's Jax Film Studios. Blizzard sets BlizzCon 2026 tickets pricing on sale date after skipping 2 years. Gaming news roundup. Oh, whatever. We don't give a fuck about gaming. First of all, does BlizzCon even matter anymore? Does it matter? Does Blizzard have a footprint in gaming? WoW is a disaster. Yes, it is still making money. It still has good, crazy amounts of subscribers playing that god-awful game. But it doesn't have an impact on gaming culture. WoW doesn't. No other Blizzard title. Tell me a Blizzard title that has any sort of impact on gaming culture right now. I'll give you a moment because I can't think of one. I can't. 9 million, you say. Once upon a time, they had 25 million. Does Diablo 4 matter, though, Kel? Does it matter? Does Diablo 4 matter? Does anybody talk about it? Does anybody care? Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about StarCraft. Show me something from Blizzard that really matters. You see, I left that one out there because I knew you would bring that up. I didn't have to say it. I knew it was going to be there. But I mean, seriously, does Blizzard matter anymore? Activision Blizzard, owned by Microsoft. There's no power behind that name anymore. They're a slop company making slop games. And yes, 9 million is nothing to sneeze at. But it's not 20 to 25 million in its heyday. It's not. Yeah, it's dead. It's a pointless developer. There's no innovation there. WoW looks terrible, plays terrible. And the story was always garbage. So nobody cares about BlizzCon. People are going to go. I'm sure people are going to go. But the broader gaming world doesn't give a shit. Radiohead returns after 7 years. Here's every song. I don't care. I never listen to Radiohead. Box office Predator Badlands targets 25 million debut. And you'll get my wonderful take on that soon enough. How Wicked for Good production designer built Elphaba's nest from woods to greens. It's an art installation. I don't care. I'm not a gay person or a woman. The life and times of Ion G tells an improbable tale of homeless migrant who became a media sensation but only wanted to be loved. I don't know who this is. So this is something that only people who care about hoity-toity artsy stories care about. No, I don't never heard of this shit. World of StarCraft. Could you really be a Zerg? I don't know. I lost interest in StarCraft a long time ago. I never even played StarCraft 2. Never even played it. And I played StarCraft hardcore back in the day. Scream Queens Jane Levy and Jessica Roth team with Slasher Arriver as Shudder original sets theatrical release. I don't care. The documentary studio unfeatured films plans to use AI to bring archival photos to life and restore old footage. Yeah, we see that kind of nightmare all the time. It's not cool. It's kind of creepy. A little creepy. Little ghoulish, if you ask me. Cynthia Erivo heads to court in prima facie. First look at movie adaptation of Warhammered play unveils supporting cast. Good luck. Why does she still have all her? If she is an English judge, all those earrings? No, fuck no. Unrealistic. Unfucking realistic. Take out the fucking earrings, you ghoul. She is a ghoul. She is a fucking ghoul. Corey Micros, Alfie Williams join Megan Faye and Supernatural Banquet from December. Whatever. Millie Bobby Brown demands the press to stop slamming her body in article headlines. I respect journalism, but get off my effing case. I am 21. She's 21? I thought she was a little bit older than that. I thought she was in her mid-20s. Anyway, listen, I don't have a thing for her, so I don't care. Frankly, I find her annoying. Costume designer Paul Tazewell. I don't care about faggots. Well, that one slipped out. That one slipped out. The filter wasn't working there, was it? Oh, well. So much for this stream. Okay. Jenny Georgia Singapore cast people who I don't know or care about, and a show I don't know or care about. We'll go one more. Anthony Hopkins, Charlotte Rampling, Tom Hollander star in The Species with Hanway Selling. 4chan celebrated and warned. Oh, 4chan. Stay away from me. Sentimental Value casts to receive International Star Award at Palm Springs International Film Awards. MPA sends Meta cease and desist letter to demanding Instagram stop using PG-13 rating to describe new teen accounts. Yeah, that sounds a little creepy. David Ellison, Paramount Inc.'s 5-year streaming deal with professional bull riders Unleash the Beast tour. Listen, I'm not going to insult professional bull riding. That's a dangerous fucking job. But is it really reached a point where it's mainstream enough that people are going to watch it on TV? And more than just its fan base. I'm just curious because I have never heard a demand for bull riding on television. I just haven't. I have not. Tom Bergeron to return for Dancing with the Stars for the first time since shocking 2020 exit. I don't care. That shit is brain rot entertainment. Don't care. Don't care. Helen Mirren. Don't care. Don't care. Blue Eyed Samurai director Jane Wu charts journey from fashion design to Emmy-winning animation. Don't care about Blue Eyed Samurai. Don't care. Don't care. Oh, but Adam, it's really good. I don't give a fuck. I'm not gonna watch it. All right, that's enough of that. Let's move on here. Hello, Weasel. Steam Deck finally introduces new quality of life feature players have been asking for. I don't have a Steam Deck, so this means nothing to me. Ask Jed if it's a good thing. Jed has a Steam Deck. He enjoys it. V for Vendetta will return to cinemas for its 20th anniversary in 2026. That's smart. That's a smart move. People go see it. Battlefield 6 devs to revert aim assist settings as PC players edit files to turn off crossplay. What? I'm not sure what I just read there. I'm not. How is reverting aim assist settings connected to PC players turning off crossplay? Editing files to turn off. I don't know. Brie Larson sparks Avengers Doomsday speculation after hiding hair and telling fans to ignore the wig in voting booth photo. Brie, you've done well for the past couple of years, not talking and not doing anything. Stay on that track and keep your feet hidden. All editions of Terminator 2D No Fate delayed a third time due to physical components delay. A lot of people looking forward to that. I could care less. I don't care about a side-scrolling Terminator video game where you shoot shit. I just don't. I don't care. I do not live in this world where I need to play 2D side-scrollers anymore. I don't. I have moved beyond that. I'm not 10. Sorry to those who play them. If you enjoy them, I am not 10. I do not enjoy that stuff anymore. Mashing buttons to just kill shit on a 2D side screen, it is no longer entertaining to me. I need my games to either have some sort of strategy to them or some sort of complexity to them. I'm an old man. I don't need your childish things. It's not gonna. I know that statement's not gonna go over well with a lot of people, but I don't care. I'm not here to lie and blow smoke up your ass. That I love everything. I'm not here to be nice to everybody and blow and pretend that everything is cool. Everything is not cool. Some things are cringe. Some things are childish in their presentation, and I'm going to say it. If you are going to enjoy this, that's fine. But don't try to tell me I should get all excited for a 2D Terminator 2 side-scrolling action button mashing shoot 'em up shit. Don't tell me to get excited for that because I'm not going to. Is that what it is, Kel, with Battlefield 6? It's not graphics, Queen. The graphics are going to look cool. I can tell. I've seen the thing. It looks nice, but it's just I don't find joy in retro gaming. I don't. I lived it my entire childhood. I don't want to go back to it. I don't live in that period anymore. I live in the here and now. I like modern gaming and its mechanics. Not all modern games are great, but I like modern gaming. I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not. PlayStation 5 cross-buy hints spark hope that Sony will finally introduce dual PS5 and PC purchases. Well, my best guess is that they will at some point shrink the time between PS5 releases and PC release. Because here's the thing. Here's why I think some people are forgetting there needs to be some space between the release. Because the console version, they have to iron out the kinks, so to speak, to make it PC playable. Otherwise, it's broken as fuck on PC. So give them their time to do it, and it will come out. That's my take on that. I think at best, they can shorten the time. Chicken Chicken is an 8-player party game where everyone is a literal chicken. No. No, I refuse. PlayStation Portal handheld officially adds cloud streaming. I never want that. I play my PlayStation on my PlayStation. Play my games on my console. I don't want to. I am not obsessed with having my gaming traveling with me. Don't need that. Battlefield 6 gets a major overhaul of challenges and assignments with significant reductions to challenge requirements available now. Okay. Witcher Season 4 viewership down. Yes. That was making the rounds yesterday. Lots of problems with that show, which we've documented on Jed's stream on Saturday. Nintendo planning consistent release cadence for more video game movies following Super Mario Galaxy and Legend of Zelda films. And apparently they're beginning production on Legend of Zelda live action. I still think it's a bad idea. I do. No one's going to change my mind. Escape from Tarkov shares pre-order beta rewards as it nears 1.0 launch. I don't know what that is. Obsidian knows whenever it announces a new game, everyone asks about Fallout New Vegas 2, but it loves making original IP and sequels to them. They don't own the... Okay. You can add, that's retarded to ask Obsidian that because Bethesda owns the rights to Fallout, aka Microsoft. Obsidian ain't getting their hands on it unless somebody says yes, you may. And listen, Obsidian doesn't have a good track record lately. Are you really that hot for another Obsidian title? They're putting out dog shit. Avowed. Newly launched Nintendo Store app lets you buy games and track your playtime down to the hour, even on the Wii U. So, but PlayStation does that already. I don't care. I don't care how long I care how long I've played in the end. Game itself used to tell you. Now the console tells you. So, I don't really need it to tell me. The game usually tells me how long I've played. Valor Mortis devs dares fans to question the game's Souls-like credentials. If you are not sure about it, challenge us. I haven't heard of this game. I would need to be educated on this. Valor Mortis director on difficulty options. What connects Souls-like players is that they are all struggling. Yeah, you get good scrub or just quit. That's your option. Look, I hate it when they change the titles on me mid-thing. Simpsons' arrival on Fortnite prompted player count spike. Epic Games says, yeah, apparently everybody's playing it, but I don't understand why, because The Simpsons are dog shit. Horrible show. People behind it are horrible. Here's when you'll be able to play Call of Duty Black Ops 7 in your time zone. Don't care. Dan Trachtenberg tells IGN he's well aware Predator purists may criticize Predator Badlands, but insists retreading and remaking the same thing over and over risks upsetting everyone. I have a solution. Don't make anything. Don't make anything. There's my solution. After Predator 2, no one asked for more Predator movies. No one asked. I was happy. I never needed any more. Nintendo signals shift away from Switch 1 development as owners unfortunately uniformly migrating to Switch 2. Really? Really? I know plenty of Switch 1 people, 3 of which I stream with on a regular basis, who have no motivation to migrate to the Switch 2. In fact, I hear a lot of comments on a lot of streams that Switch 1 owners, there are a lot of Switch 1 owners who are not migrating to the Switch 2 because, newsflash, as I've said over and over again, every time this stuff comes up, the Switch 2 library is pretty weak. It's not very good. Games you can get on the Switch, you can get on other consoles where they play better, or the PC where it plays better. So, I don't know about that. I feel like that's a lie. Fallout 4 patch notes reveal gameplay and performance improvements ahead of Anniversary Edition launch. Yeah, I'll probably... I never finished it. I don't even have my save data anymore. I'd have to start from the beginning. I lost my save data when my PS4's previous hard drive ate itself. Switch 2 continues to be biggest console launch ever. Okay, this is yesterday. Okay, we're into yesterday, and there's the news on the Mummy, blah, blah, blah. And I got another thing on here that I will talk about. Oh, there it is right there. There it is. That's my next subject. Hollywood gloats over Mom Donnie victory as celebrities suddenly differ with even CNN. We're not going to talk politics, but I will say this. As one who was born in New York, I was born in Manhattan, lived there for the first 2 to 3 years of my life. I lived and worked there briefly at the beginning of the century when I was getting my culinary degree. New York is done. We have friends who live there, buddies and pals. Good luck to you. If you can get out, I recommend finding a way. But New York is done. It was already a shithole. Newsflash, it was a shithole when I lived there in 2003. It was already a shithole, and it's only gotten worse. So, goodbye, New York. Now, it broke my mom's heart because that's her city. She grew up there. She lived there for half her life. And it was the greatest city in the country, greatest city in the nation. And now it's going to become a commie shithole, worse than ever. So good luck. Good luck. Good luck in my state. I voted yesterday, and I knew what the outcome was going to be. Because this state is toast. Electing somebody who wishes death upon children. Good job. You can help me escape this state by hitting the like button, by subscribing to the channel, by helping to make this channel grow and be successful, where it can pay bills, and I can flee this god-awful state that I currently live in. Predator Bad Lads box office projections aren't looking good. Will this be Disney's fourth flop in a row? Oh, you're right. This is Disney, isn't it? I forgot it's Disney. Yeah. Jennifer Lawrence says she's done attacking Trump amidst celebrity political activism doesn't change votes. Yeah, I've seen the clip. I've never given a fuck what she has to say. She is a dumb cow, always will be a dumb cow, not as hot as anybody thought she was, and her movies aren't that great. That's simple. Disney Make-A-Wish efforts abandon Hollywood for YouTubers. Mr. Beast and YouTube creators grant wishes at Disneyland. That's definitely a shame. Trump slams Seth Meyers on Truth Social over catapult segment. I don't know what that is. David Cornsweet not part of pro-Palestine Israel boycott. Online hoax revealed. Got to be careful these days. Don't believe shit. I saw that and I thought, well, that's pretty dumb. It's a shame, but turns out it was a hoax. This is why I also don't always comment on things. See what happens? Once again, buttholes. The gatekeepers are more worried about the buttholes. Loki 2 budget exceeds $170 million per Disney financial reports. Yeah, they didn't make any money on that. Rumor Disney planning Sleeping Beauty remake set in Mexico. Well, I'm sure that'll be a success. Anyway. That's it. That's pretty much the news, and I'm sticking to it. All right. I watched all those movies, and the first one was the most entertaining one. Everything after that, it just got worse for me. It got less and less entertaining. Siesta Beauty. That's a good one. All right, I got something else here. I got something else to talk about that I just teased a second ago. I may have to eat some crow. I have to possibly eat some crow because I was critical about Paramount Skydance and some of the choices they've been making since the merge. The chief thing I said is, I don't trust you about making creative choices when you're allowing Kurtzman Trek to continue and you're going to go back to JJ Trek. Because remember, even though Kurtzman is branched off of JJ Trek, they are technically two separate things. JJ Trek, Kurtzman Trek are two separate things. Neither are good, mind you. But as of yesterday, apparently Paramount is not going back to JJ Trek. Paramount reportedly wants a fresh Star Trek movie, but not with Chris Pine, Zach Quinto, and the rest of JJ Trek crew. Paramount reportedly wants to make a new Star Trek movie without Chris Pine and then the fake crew of the Enterprise. In August, Skydance closed the $8 billion deal to take over Paramount, which owns Star Trek, with a new board led by Skydance boss and Star Trek fan David Ellison. All right, so if he is a Star Trek fan, maybe he does understand how bad Star Trek is right now. That JJ Trek was not the way to go originally with that reboot and creating the Kelvin timeline. And at the same time, allowing the scum of the earth, Alex Kurtzman, to destroy Star Trek. Now, let's keep reading this. While there has been a full Star Trek film released in theaters in nearly a decade, stars of the Abrams Star Trek films are often asked about reprising their roles. And yes, Star Trek 4, JJ Trek 4, has been canceled numerous times. They're always asked what's going on. There were plenty of negotiations, and people said no because of money and this and that. And yeah, it's a meme at this point, but this is different because they said they were going to do it this time. They said, okay, we're hopefully not going forward with Kurtzman Trek, because the rumors have it that Star Trek Starfleet Academy has already been canceled after the season 1. They've already canceled it, but they're going to have to put it out. I mean, I'm going to review it. Don't worry. I'll be there. We'll have fun. But what do you do? What do you do with this right here? I mean, they're just going to keep talking about David Ellison. What are they going to do? This and that. How do they care about it? I don't care what the fake crew of the Enterprise has to say. Here's the point. You can only make a Star Trek movie when you have an active cast on television. The original crew of the Enterprise, the OG, the TOS crew, made movies because they existed and people wanted them. TNG got their run because they were a TV show, an existing crew. DS9 and Voyager never got it because those stories, DS9, you can't continue that story without going in a certain direction. And its story was over. That story was done. And Voyager, its story definitely was done. There was not another story to be told with Voyager. So without those crews, there's no active crew, because ever since then, Discovery and Stranger Worlds and all that freaking garbage, there is no crew you can make a movie with right now. Because JJ Trek, they're not a crew of the Enterprise. They're fake. Nobody likes them. Nobody wants them. Nobody asks for them. Only fake Star Trek fans want that. So you can't make a movie without a good Star Trek show. And you don't have a good Star Trek show. So we have a problem here. What do we do? I mean, you could have had a good Star Trek show for the past 2 years if you made Legacy. If you gave Terry Matalas the keys to the ship, you could have had a good show. People were hot for it. Real fans were coming back. We were excited. We were ready for it. Our body was ready. Take our money. Take our time. But no. You went with Kurtzman Trek. The previous administration in Paramount went with Kurtzman Trek and Starfleet Academy and more strange new shit. That's what they went with. And none of those have any fan base whatsoever. Drooling fake Star Trek fans are the ones that lick that shoe. So you can't make a movie. So they're going to go with a fresh Star Trek movie, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I have no hope for this. If you had said we want a fresh Star Trek show that is not Kurtzman Trek, now I'm listening. Now I'm listening, because that's the only way to go. You have to move forward and tried to do what Terry Matalas did the best he could during Picard Season 3. Wipe away as much of the Kurtzman shit as possible. There is no hope for Star Trek for a Star Trek movie unless you have a good Star Trek show running for a few years first. So this shows me, and at first I thought, oh, maybe this is good news. But the more we talk about this, the more we think about this, no. This is not good news. Because you have nothing to make a movie with. You do not have a fan base anymore. Guys like me, guys like Brad, guys like Kel, guys like Jed, those of us who are hardcore Star Trek fans who love this stuff, we are not on board. Do not beam me up. Leave me on Ryza where I'm happy protecting my Horgon and waiting for a friend to come and have fun with me. No. You cannot have a movie without a good show, and there is no good Star Trek on television anymore. Done. Give me a show, then give me a movie. Then we talk. Until then, I don't want to hear about it. Until then, I have no faith. They don't know what they're doing. Star Trek is so done. And right now, I am done. I'm not wrong, am I? I don't think I'm wrong. Don't speak that evil. Don't speak that evil. I don't think I'm wrong, though. I don't. You can't have a Star Trek movie without a crew that has a good show. Can't do it. Can't do it. So why are we doing this? Because they don't know any other way. If the CEO of Paramount Skydance is a really Star Trek fan, he should know this. He should know this. Anyway, all right. I have one more little thing, but let's do some Warhammer Wednesday. We'll close with my little thing, which is basically making fun of Disney Star Wars again. All right, so here we go. Kel for $20 over on Stream Elements. Here we go. Arbiter Ian. This is from a year ago. We are now going to watch Ages of the Imperium, 30K to 40K. Here we go. Let's have some fun.
Hi gang. In Warhammer 40,000, the protagonist is not any one individual, but a vast and sprawling empire, the Imperium of Man, which in the current timeline is going through the Era Indomitus. But this Imperium has persisted for 10,000 years, and it's gone through a lot of other eras and ages too. So let's look at how it got there.
Now, of course, the difference in all those eras, the current era, the Emperor was there for those eras. He was there, active, alive. Now, he's a desiccated husk on the Golden Throne, holding the webway together or trying to make the webway work, however you want to look at it. So the difference now is the Emperor isn't there.
The Age of the Imperium is a term that, in 40k, refers to the last 10,000 years of in-game history, from around the 30th millennium CE to around the 41st millennium, the time that the Imperium of Man has existed and dominated the galaxy. But the Imperium itself has gone through lots of different changes in that period of time. Eras of unity and unrest, consolidation and religious fanaticism,
This is the Emperor.
Each usually prompted by the events of the last one. And if you play 40k...
I find that interesting. He showed us the Emperor, and then he still showed us the Emperor, as he is now.
You probably would have heard of a lot of them. The Age of Apostasy, the Time of Ending, each of these millennia-long events that happened, somewhere back in the depths of the lore. So in this video, I'm going to lay them all out next to each other and go through the ages of the Imperium. What are all these great long events, and how did one of them inevitably lead to the other? The start of the Age of the Imperium technically begins with the founding of the Imperium by the Emperor on Terra at the end of the Unification Wars. However, periods of history, like the Unification Wars, that followed it, and the Horus Heresy that followed
Unification Wars, where he did some dirty shit.
that, are usually dealt with on their own. When people think of the age of the Imperium, they're usually talking about the end of the heresy through to the present day in 40k, the timeline where the Imperium as we know it solidified. However, even though they're often thought of as their own separate events, it's worth going over these initial periods just so we have some context. So let's start with Unity. In the late 29th millennium, on Terra, the planet once known as Earth, the Emperor rose to prominence. At this point, great warp storms had engulfed the galaxy for 5,000 years, a period known as the Age of Strife. During the preceding Age of Technology, humanity had spread across the stars, but the resulting cybernetic revolt, a massive war against thinking machines, and then the descent of those warp storms, had fractured all of the old human empires and isolated those that remained. Many of these enclaves...
Hail Dom, refugee in New York. Don't worry, Dom. Dermy's planning a rescue mission for you and your sister. Don't worry. They're leaving Simpy behind.
Slaves were destroyed by alien conquest, and for many of the survivors, their origins back on Earth have become a dimly remembered legend. Terra itself had become a wasteland of rival...
Look it says America. It actually says America. America. I love that. America. It's great. No water left.
Competing nation states and warlords fighting for resources and utilizing any scraps of advanced technology or esoteric knowledge that they could find. Accompanied first by human troops and then by the modified thunder warriors of the Legio Cataegis and his bodyguard, the Legio Custodes, the Emperor slowly brought the post-apocalyptic homeworld of humanity under his control by either force of arms or by the capitulation of the many states and petty warlords.
By killing. Lots and lots of killing. You could trust Dermy about as far as you can throw him.
That occupied it, all under the Raptor and Lightning banners of Unity. It's unknown when the Emperor's new state officially came into being, but by the middle of the 30th millennium, the Imperium was the dominant power on Terra, the Imperial Palace was under construction, and the first High Lords had been appointed to its civilian government. The Unification Wars were officially declared over in 712 M30, but by that point, the Imperium had already started the next stage of expansion. The unstable armies of Thunder Warriors had been destroyed in the Battle of Mount Ararat in 669, but their replacements, the Legiones Astartes, the Space Marines, had taken the fight off Terra, pacifying the Selenar gene cults on Luna. For the rest of the 700s, the Imperium consolidated its hold on the solar system. The Treaty of Mars was forged with the tech priests of the Mechanicum in 739.
Something we have already covered.
And the fleets of Saturn and Jupiter were brought into the fold. And by the end of the century, the Emperor was in a position to launch the next stage of his plans, the Great Crusade. The Great Crusade officially started in 798 M30 as the warp storms that had raged for 5 millennia subsided and thousands of expeditionary fleets left the solar system. Each of these was a military powerhouse of ancient starships, Astartes, task forces, Imperial Army, or
Without their Primarchs.
Auxilia, and technologically advanced Mechanicum assets, and over the next 200 years, they led a campaign of exploration and conquest across the galaxy. Originally, the campaign was led by the Emperor himself, but as the Crusade pushed on, many of the lost Primarchs...
There we go. See, I remember, I've learned.
The genetic base for the Space Marine legions, who had been lost in a warp rift back on Terra, were rediscovered, and they were placed in command of their respective forces. When the fleets discovered human enclaves, they were brought into compliance with the Imperium, often willingly and sometimes by force if necessary. Xenos threats and those human empires that had diverged too far from the human genome, either by mutation or the incorporation of alien DNA, were exterminated mercilessly.
Purity.
And while many of these were wiped out by one or two fleets, some great wars were fought that sucked in the military might of this new imperium. Of particular note are the Rangdan genocides of the late 800s.
We've touched on this a couple of times in other lore videos.
M30, in which the First Legion, the Dark Angels, led 3 wars against the horrific Xenos Rangda and their massive empire in the Halo Stars. The last of those genocides saw the destruction of the Rangdan Empire along with the loss of over 50,000 Space Marines and the possible loss of whole legions. And at the end of the millennium, the Ullanor Crusade saw the deployment of over 100,000 Astartes and 8 million Imperial Army soldiers led by the Emperor and the Primarch Horus against the Orc Empire of Urlak-Urg, the greatest concentration of orcs that had ever been seen to that day. At the conclusion of the campaign, the Great Triumph of Ullanor was held, in which Horus was invested War Master of the Imperium, and the Emperor returned to Terra to work on his many other projects. By this point, humanity was close to total domination of the galaxy, but events took a turn for the worse.
Womp womp.
When the new War Master, Horus, was corrupted by the forces of chaos. Convincing half of his brother Primarchs to his side, he then led a brutal rebellion that quickly turned into the civil war known as the Horus Heresy. I have another video on the actual events of the heresy here, but it's fair to say that in 10 short years, the new Imperium was ripped apart. The Civil War saw Space Marine Legion fight Space Marine Legion, sometimes to the point of near destruction, but it also spread into every other arm of the Imperium. Planets declared either for the Emperor or for Horus, the Imperial Army and Auxilia split following their superiors in the legions, even the Mechanicum of Mars was split, with Mars falling to Horus and Titan legions and night houses turning on one another. By the time Horus was defeated, at the climax of the punishing Siege of Terra, the Imperium was a ruin. Terra was a wasteland once again, buried in the dust of the Imperial Palace. Human planets across the galaxy were burning ruins, and the Emperor himself, mortally wounded in his final duel with Horus, was confined to the Golden Throne, barely able to communicate with his followers. Whatever plans he had, lost forever.
And that's that. And look at that. That's already only 7 minutes in. I mean, we've covered this repeatedly, and it's just the question is what are the Emperor's plans, and do any of the Primarchs remain? If the loyal Primarchs know it, we've theorized, we've discussed. Vulcan might know. We think that a couple others might know as well, and which is why they're so fervently pushing the current Indominus era.
In the immediate aftermath of the Horus Heresy, the Imperium entered into a period of time known as the Age of Rebirth, which lasted for the rest of the 31st and much of the 32nd millennia. This was a period of great change for the Imperium of Man, as it came to terms with the loss of the Emperor and had to figure out not only how to govern and organize itself, but also what its new objectives would be. Whatever the Emperor's plans had been after the Great Crusade were now lost. One of the central figures in this time was the Primarch Robute Guilliman of the Ultramarines.
King Blueberry. King Blueberry. Hail, Arctic Warriors.
The Ultramarines had always been one of the more powerful and numerous of the Space Marine legions, and so Horus, when planning his rebellion, had made sure that they were deployed to the furthest reaches of the galaxy, trapped behind giant warp storms so they'd be unable to intervene. They finally reached Terra shortly after Horus had been killed by the Emperor, but their relative isolation and their massive recruitment base meant that, in the aftermath, they were by far the most numerous legion, and Robute Guilliman, a consummate strategist and logistician, took command of the Broken Imperium as its Lord Commander. The first priority was to hunt down the remainder of the traitors who'd followed Horus, a period of running wars known as the Great Scouring that started in 15
which still got pretty ugly, still very ugly.
31, and is known to have continued for hundreds of years. During this time, Guilliman rallied his brother Primarchs to his side, and together they drove the remnants of the traitor legions from the galaxy, either destroying them or hounding them into the great warp rift known as the Eye of Terror. The Imperium also consolidated its losses, bringing swift retribution and punishment to those systems who had sided with the traitor Horus. Many of the home worlds of the traitor legions were subjected to exterminatus for their crimes. At the same time, Guilliman instituted sweeping reforms to the military of the Imperium,
which we've covered, the reforming of the legions, paring it down so that not in, as we've seen in previous lore videos, I think it was even Arbiter Ian's video, where making sure that no one legion is too overpowered and this and that, and little sections, but still could be called upon to make an army if necessary.
Which focused now on consolidation and defense rather than constant expansion, and which were designed to limit the power any one commander could hold. During the second founding of 21 M31, the Loyalist Space Marine legions were broken down into chapters of 1,000 Astartes, each either tasked with a duty to protect the Imperium wherever threats occurred, or responsible for their own planet and surrounding area of space. One of these new chapters would retain the name, homeworld, and heraldry of the original legion, and the others would adopt new names and heraldries, and all would be responsible for sending a part of their gene seed back to Mars for regular testing. At the same time, the power of the old Imperial Army was split. The Imperial Navy was split from the Astra Militarum, and the Astra Militarum regiments were specialized, with combined arms regiments becoming very uncommon. The dizzying array of organizational structures and cultures that had existed was somewhat standardized by a new Departamento Munitorum that saw to the oversight and supply of the military, and who incorporated into every regiment and ship discipline officers known as commissars to ensure loyalty. A regimental commander or fleet captain who turned traitor would not only have to escape the bolt pistol of their commissars, but would quickly find themselves without armor support.
It's just the redundancies to the safety, and this is Guilliman being smart after everything Horus did, which was so grand in scope to be able to keep, especially his forces, out of the fight for so long.
Or fleet transport, or artillery. Never again could a new Horus unite half the Imperium's armed forces under their banner. It was also at this time that the makeup of the High Lords of Terror, the 12 heads of imperial government, was formalized, as well as the Senatorum Imperialis that served underneath them. High Lords had existed before as part of the Council of Terror, but now the Great Crusade was over, they became the main power in control of the imperial system. The Great Scouring was a time of unification, but also a time of loss. In its many wars, most of the Loyalist Primarchs disappeared. Lion L. Johnson of the Dark Angels,
we recently talked about Lionel,
went missing soon into the period during the destruction of their homeworld, Caliban, which had turned against the Imperium. Corax of the Raven Guard, Liman Russ of the Space Wolves, Rogel Dawn of the Imperial Fists, and Jagatai Khan of the White Scars all disappeared in battle with either traitors or Xenos raiders, and during the Battle of Thessalia in 121 M31, Guilliman was fatally wounded by Fulgrim of the Emperor's Children and placed in stasis on the Ultramarines' homeworld of Macragge. In addition, the forces of Chaos started their long war in mid-M31, as Horus's former second-in-command, Abaddon the Despoiler, broke out of the eye on the first and smallest of his Black Crusades. All this loss also contributed to a strengthening of religious fervor in the Imperium. While the Emperor had always enforced the imperial truth, the banning of any worship or religion intended to starve the forces of Chaos, there were always groups who had seen him as a god, and these beliefs had been growing since the end of the heresy. In early M32, seeing the usefulness of a church as a tool of unification and control, the largest of these emperor-worshipping cults, the Temple of the Savior Emperor, was incorporated as the state religion of the Imperium, the Adeptus Ministorum.
See, that is a huge change. That is a massive change. So, because we've covered it repeatedly. The Emperor says, "No, I'm not a god." And in fact, he, by berating one of the previous Primarchs we covered, and that caused the fall. That caused the Primarch fall by berating him so heavily, "Don't worship me as God." So this is a big shift to allowing actual worship of the Emperor.
And a few hundred years later, the ecclesiarch, the leader of the church, was given a seat on the Council of High Lords. By the middle of M32, the Imperium was in a state of relative peace and prosperity. The traitor legions were fighting their own wars for control of the Eye of Terror, and so the threat from chaos had greatly reduced.
Chaos will always turn on each other. They'll do it.
Though the Imperium did suffer two more of the early Black Crusades in this millennia, as Abaddon assaulted Bellis Corona and Gerstal. However, in the relative absence of a regular chaos threat, the threat from Xenos had grown. In 544 M32, the Imperium came under attack from the largest Orc war in centuries.
Wog. How many times? There's a G at the end of it.
During the War of the Beast. The Orc war boss, known as the Beast, united much of the Orc species, and the war came to a head when Orc attack moons materialized over...
Attack moons? I've actually never heard of an attack moon. I mean, I never played Orcs in 40K, so I'm not fully knowledgeable of what they have. An attack moon? That's no moon. That's a Wog moon.
Terror itself, and demanded the surrender of the Imperium. The invasion sorely tested the resolve of the High Lords, who fractured and came back together again many times throughout the conflict. In the end, the Imperium was narrowly saved, both by the invocation of the Last War Protocol that brought the chapters of the old Imperial Fist Legion back together, and the reappearance of the Primarch Vulcan of the Salamanders. The ancient Orc homeworld of Olenor was attacked, and the War fractured, and Olenor was ordered to be subjected to Exterminatus, and as a response to the entire incident, the Death Watch were formed, a force of Space Marines drawn from different chapters to better protect the Imperium from Xenos threats. However, the War of the Beast destabilizing effect did not stop there. At the end of the war, the newly invested Lord Commander of the Imperium, Maximus Thane of the Imperial Fists, ordered a fourth founding of Space Marine chapters, and then stepped down to serve as chapter master of the Imperial Fists, leaving the previous Grand Master of Assassins, Drakan Vangarich, as Lord Protector of the Imperium in his stead. Almost immediately, in 546 M32, contemptuous of the infighting within the High Lords, Vangarich enacted a coup known as the Beheading, where the entire High Lords were assassinated and replaced by his personal choices.
I'm sure that's going to go over well.
Vangarich then ruled the Imperium for the next century as an increasingly unstable tyrant, until Thane and the Imperial Fists, finally having cleared away the remnants of the War of the Beast, returned and deposed him. The brief period of anarchy that followed was eventually stabilized by a council of over 50 Space Marine chapter masters who installed a new set of High Lords during the restoration of the Senatorum Imperialis in
I didn't know any of this. This is fascinating.
642, before retreating from the imperial politics and from the rank of Lord Commander. These events cross over.
All right, let's just have a moment here. Got to understand that shows you how good at his job Gilliman was before he got wounded and before he comes back. Gilliman was a stable influence. One would say the best, one of the best of his father's sons. You know, understand. That's why I say I think Gilliman knows the plan. From what we've understood, Gilman and Vulcan, I think both know the plan. And that's why when Gilman comes back, that's such a big deal. Because look how stabilizing he is. Everything seems to run well when Gilliman is in charge.
With the next major age of the Imperium, the Forging, which lasted from the middle of M32 through to the end of M34. This is often considered a golden age for the Imperium, where many of the systems of government still in use in the 41st millennium were established or strengthened, and the Imperium as a whole expanded.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I that's definitely a discussion point for later. I definitely see where that's an excellent case for that. Because Gilman has no ego. From what I can understand, Gilman doesn't have the ego that a lot of the other Primarchs have. He just wants the stability of his father's dream, is what he wants.
Many systems and empires that had evaded the clutches of the Great Crusade were finally brought under the control of the Imperium, and the naval passages, trade routes, and communication systems that held the Imperium together were formalized and strengthened. Astropathic choirs and relays were stationed on most Imperial worlds, with major hubs established on the best garrisons.
Ooh. That's a discussion for later, I think. That's definitely a discussion to have later.
And on the most important worlds, military outposts like Macragge, industrial linchpins like Armageddon, or fleet bases like Bacca. The massive expansion of the Adeptus Astra Telepathica required might even have led to the Astropath Wars of 888 M32, though little else is known about that conflict. Entering into M33, the Ecclesiarchy, in a move that would become quite common over
A screeching woman.
the next few millennia, attempted to seize more power. The Wars of the Confessor were a series of conflicts that saw a number of shrine worlds added to the domains of the Adeptus Ministorum. We also have the advent of what I'm going to call here random events, the sort of thing that all these timelines are filled with, but don't actually ever get mentioned again. In 615, we get the mysterious return of the Blade of Infinity, a pre-imperial human cruiser that entered the warp 20,000 years before. It mostly warned against impending chaos cults. And in 831, the honored dead of the Segmentum Solar rose up against warp incursions with literally no other explanation. As we move into M34, the Imperium comes under threat from a number of big events. At the start of the millennia, in 01, the Fourth Black Crusade assaulted the world of Alfanor, and soon after, the Pale Wasting occurred in the galactic northeast, a star-spawned plague of Xenos horror that originated in the Ghoul stars and involved unknown alien monstrosities and nightmare engines that slaughtered whole sectors.
Okay. I guess that's all we know about that.
11 Space Marine chapters were lost in the aftermath, with the Nova Marines as the only recorded survivor. And in the random events column, the Black Templars fought a war against the Caco Dominus, an alien entity whose psychic powers had granted it dominion over 1,300 systems.
Wow.
And in 666 M34, a number of warp stars appeared around the Eye of Terror, which sucked in nearby planets.
Ugh.
Generally, the Forging is an age in which the control of the Imperium was solidified and re-established. STC fragments are rediscovered throughout the era, which held off the slow technological decline, as the formal rules of the Imperium and the expectation on its client planets were raised, with brutal punishments becoming normal for transgressions against the rule of the High Lords. Though in many ways the Imperium stabilized and strengthened, the familiar culture of paranoia and fear became commonplace in even the highest halls of government, while the menials of the Imperium slid further into ignorance. The effects of that consolidation of power would be felt in the 35th millennium, which is dominated by an event known as the Nova Terra Interregnum. Railing against this oppressive new system, a number of worlds in the Segmentum Pacificus rebelled, led by the Council on the planet of Nova Terra. In a series of rebellions,
I know nothing of this. This is all fresh information for me.
That lasted 900 years, also called the Time of Two Emperors, much of the Western Segmentum Pacificus seceded from the Imperium, creating two parallel power structures with immense resources. For much of the time, this became a relatively low-level conflict that played out in border campaigns and the occasional crusade of retribution against particularly rebellious systems, but the split hadn't affected the Imperium over. Chaos cults took advantage of the lack of certainty, and fringe religious sects became common. Even within the Imperium's other priesthood, the Adeptus Mechanicum, the Moirai Schism, a doomsday cult that foretold the end of Martian independence, plunged tech priests across the galaxy into civil war for centuries until the world of Moirai was destroyed and the cult slowly wiped out by Mars. Eventually, the interregnum was ended by, yet again, a power grab by the Ecclesiarchy, who originally attempted a coup to force the Imperium into becoming a religious state under their overall control. In the Halls of Terror, they were outmaneuvered, but the absolute rejection of this by the rebels in Nova Terra made them heretics, and a colossal war of faith was launched into the sector, which killed billions.
Oi.
Eventually, by the end of the millennium, the interregnum period was over, and the Imperium reunited once again. There were brief attempts to recover what was lost. The whole millennia involved at least 10 known Space Marine foundings, many very small and isolated, ending with the 21st founding in 991 M35, though it would later transpire that many of the Space Marine chapters were horribly flawed. And then, as the clock turned to M36, the Adeptus Mechanicus launched Wars of Recovery into the Mortuum chain, recovering ancient STC patterns. And of course, there were the usual footnote wars throughout the millennium. However, the end of the Nova Terra Interregnum was not the end of the strife. Emerging from the fires of the Interregnum stronger than ever, the Adeptus Ministorum once again attempted to seize power. In 200 M36, the High Lord Goge Vandire took on the dual roles of Master of the Administratum and Ecclesiarch, ushering in a period known as the Reign of Blood that lasted 7 decades.
You know what's funny? None of these things here are chaos-oriented. Pure, regular, good old-fashioned human greed and desire for power. This ain't chaos. It's just people trying to get power.
The paranoid Vandire, now in command of much of the Imperium's armed forces, saw conspiracies everywhere. Planets burned under the guns of both the Imperial Guard and the Fraterus Templar on his whim. Wars of faith were launched against loyal worlds for any perceived slight only known to the High Lord. For much of this period, the Mechanicus and the Space Marine chapters stayed well out of it, seeing it as an internal struggle within the government of the Imperium.
That's funny. That the Space Marine was like, let the cake eaters, talk this shit out. We're killing Xenos.
But eventually, when the preacher Sebastian Thor arose on the world of Dimmermar and the Retribution fleet sent to destroy him disappeared into a warp storm, evermore known as the Storm of the Emperor's Wrath, many chapters joined his banner. Thor's Confederation of Light journeyed to Terra, where the assembled Space Marine forces defeated Vandire's bodyguards and restored the rule of the High Lords once again. In the aftermath, the Ordo Hereticus of the Inquisition was established, and the Adeptus Ministorum was banned from retaining men under arms, and that led to the rise of the Adepta Sororitas as a way of circumventing that rule. But this spiritual disruption didn't end there. A few decades later, Cardinal Bucaris rose to the leadership of the shrine world of Gathalamor, a preacher so dedicated to the Emperor that he enslaved entire planetary populations to the building of great monuments. Isolated.
That's insane. It's nuts.
From the wider Imperium by great warp storms, the Cardinal's new creed, known as the Plague of Unbelief, promoted the idea of radical self-reliance and self-interest and the destruction of the weakest in society. His speeches turning the planets he visited into hotbeds of mob violence and disruption. His words turned armies and fleets to his side until eventually he made the mistake of attempting to co-opt the nearby Space Wolves.
Uh-oh. See, this is what happens when you actually try to fuck with the Marines, with a Marine chapter. Like, no, we're going to now make an example of you, I think.
Into his proto-empire, and that backfired horribly. The Wolves smashed his armies, and an uprising soon after by the charismatic Confessor Dolan forced his forces back to Gathalamor, where Dolan's words eventually changed the minds of Bucaris' supporters, and they turned on the apostate cardinal. If these two great disasters weren't enough, the Imperium was also shaken by the usual invasions and wars, especially towards the end of the millennium. In 724,
Here comes the Nids.
The Fifth Black Crusade, the Tide of Blood, enveloped the Elysian sector, destroying 2 Space Marine chapters, and this came a couple of years before the Web of Intrigue disaster, which of course has no other record, so we don't know what that is. Then, in 901, the Sixth Black Crusade destroyed the Forge world of Arcreach. This whole era, the 36th millennium, was known as the Age of Apostasy, and by the end of the millennium, the spiritual malaise had seemingly reached the Emperor himself. By 989 M36, the tech priest that manned the Golden Throne noticed an increase in the requirement for sacrificial psychers, and by the end of the millennium, the number of psychers sacrificed daily to keep the Golden Throne in operation had increased 4-fold, and the black ships who scoured the Imperium for latent psychers had to increase their patrols. Of course,
you must sacrifice your soul to the Emperor, the throne. There's so much wrong with that.
Eras of colossal religious civil war do tend to upset the balance, and the 37th millennium, known as the Age of Redemption, saw the Imperium attempt to atone for the problems of the previous age, often overreaching into fanaticism once again. In 20 M37, the High Lords of Terra started the Great Cull. This was a systematic purge of the Adeptus Terra and a number of worlds across the galaxy that have fallen too far during the previous Age of Apostasy, with the intent of preventing such an event as the Reign of Blood from ever happening again. But the real marker of the Age of Redemption were the many crusades that were launched in the Emperor's name, often as attempts by various preachers and confessors to atone for the heresy of the 36th millennium. A movement gathered around the Saint Basilicus in the 3rd century M37, who launched the Abyssal Crusade in 321. Declaring 30 Space Marine chapters to be wanting in their devotion to the Imperium, Basilicus launched his crusade into the Eye of Terror, challenging the chapters to bring those worlds lost to humanity since before the rise of the Imperium into the Emperor's light. The crusade disappeared.
That's retarded. You're literally going into the fucking warp? There's nothing... What? The warp would have to vanish for those wars to be brought back. That's retarded.
Into the fringes of the eye for the rest of the millennium, only emerging in early M38 after purging over 400 worlds. However, when they returned, battered and bloody, the master of the Vorpal Swords chapter, Combat Clan, declared that Saint Basilicus was in fact a false idol, that veneration of him was heresy, and the veterans of the Crusade spent the next year destroying any shrine or sepulchre dedicated to him and burning his tracts and texts. Also in M37, the Lost Crusade, a movement of pilgrims and menials that spread across thousands of planets, rose up in search of a better, more tolerant galaxy. They crowded aboard civilian vessels and bulk transports, seeking to take their petition directly to Terra, but they were swallowed up by the warp and never emerged. The Ecclesiad War was fought in the 5th century of M37 against a group of radical tech priests called the Apostles of the Blind King, who'd taken their beliefs to an extreme, declaring that humanity itself was an affront to the machine god. Using Dark Age technology, they wiped out an area of the outer segmentum obscurus by making the local stars go supernova, and were only stopped when a
So they found a sun crusher or two. Okay.
rogue trader expedition was able to locate and destroy the palace vessel of the Blind King itself. The Benedictine War was launched by the Black Templars alongside 5 orders militant of the Adeptus Sororitas, the new army of the Ecclesiarchy, against the Eldari. The campaign conquered several Eldar worlds for the Imperium, but was so costly that after 2 Black Templars High Marshals were killed, the Ecclesiarch attempted to halt its progress and declare victory. The Black Templars, of course, refused to stop and kept fighting until the rest of the worlds in the subsector were purged of Xenos. And amongst all this, the Imperium...
I just got them to laugh at that. We're going to keep killing. You can't stop us. We're just going to kill them all.
Also faced crusades of a different kind as it suffered attack by its usual enemies. The 7th and 8th Black Crusades were launched from the Eye of Terror. The 7th, the Ghost War, saw Chaos-aligned fleets escape the Cadian Gate and just disappear, harrying sectors across the Imperium. And the 8th, the Skull Gather, saw Abaddon enact a series of ritualistic massacres designed to weaken the barriers between the warp and real space. After all of these exciting periods of horrific religious civil war and then the
I can hear the sarcasm.
Various attempts to make up for it. The Nova Terra Interregnum of M35, the Age of Apostasy of M36, and the Age of Redemption of M37. From M38, the Imperium entered an age of decline, retroactively referred to as the Wasting. This dark period from early M38 to around the middle of M41 saw the Imperium facing a slowly growing barrage of attacks from
I like that. But no. Black Templars, stop killing. No, we're killing everything. It's happening. You can't stop us.
Chaos and Xenos powers. It was death from 1,000 cuts, as its systems and resources grew ever thinner, not helped by the aggression and military overcommitment of the previous age. In the 38th millennium, the Imperium suffered the 9th Black Crusade, weakening reality around the worlds of Anticanis, and the sudden return of a number of space hulks in 666, which, upon inspection, turned out to be the remains of the Lost Crusade from over a millennia before. Their ships fused together in twisted and unnatural ways. In the 39th millennium, the 10th and 11th Black Crusades assaulted the Helican sector and utilized captured Orc Weird Boys to weaken reality, but there was a brief hope.
Captured Orc Weird Boys? My God, what do they do to those guys to get them to work for them?
During the Imperium's redemption crusade of 131 M39, great heroes arose, one for each segmentum of the Imperium, later declared to be saints, sent by the Emperor, and for 50 years they pushed back the tide of darkness before mysteriously disappearing along with most records of the event itself. Whatever happened, it wasn't enough. The waning continued through the 40th millennium and into the early 41st, when huge wars shook the Imperium. The Gothic War, starting in 131 M41 and lasting 20 years, saw the forces of chaos ravage the Gothic sector in an attempt to seize control of the ancient black stone fortresses, resulting in the involvement of dozens of Space Marine chapters and the destruction of several Imperial planets. And while the Macarian Crusades of the 300s M41 were lauded initially as a great victory, they ended in collapse. Lord Solar Macarius forged the greatest army the Imperium had seen in millennia and led it in a series of conquests in the western reaches of the galaxy, returning over 1,000 worlds to the Emperor's light in just 7 years. But after his death, his commanders fell to infighting, and the conflict that resulted, called the Macarian Heresy, lasted 70 years and pulled in 100 Space Marine chapters before its end. And the world of Armageddon also suffered the first of its 3 destructive invasions in 444 M41, as it was invaded by the demon Primarch Angron and his forces of Khorne.
God, Angron just merges. Jesus Christ, dude.
The planet, but not the people, were narrowly saved by the intervention of the Space Wolves. As if in response to these millennia of loss, in 500, the worlds of the Imperium were swept with visions. Ecclesiarchs, mystics, and holy men across the Imperium were overcome with images of the Emperor's tears, or saw statues of him weeping for the plight of humanity. The years that followed, the latter half of the 41st millennium, are known as the Time of Ending, a term coined in 744 M41 by Tagarath, the seer of Carino, who predicted a time of great upheaval and was swiftly executed for doing so by the Inquisition. To go into every event during these few centuries would take far too long. Almost all of Warhammer 40k's lore was set in this time period, so the number of recorded invasions, battles.
So as you can see, some of which we've covered. Here come the Tyranids, all other stuff like that. Yeah, we've covered this stuff in previous videos.
And losses is colossal. It's definitely the subject for a different video if people really want that. But in short, it was a time when the Imperium came under attack with a frequency never before seen from enemies old and new. Many of the biggest Xenos threats to the Imperium only became apparent in the dying days of the 41st millennium. First contact was made with the Tau Empire in 742, resulting in the Damocles Gulf conflict in the Ultima segmentum as the new empire expanded. The Imperium's response was then swiftly disrupted by the emergence of another new Xenos threat as the first major Tyranid invasion hit the galaxy in 745. Hive Fleet Behemoth battered its way through the Ultima
Behemoth
segmentum until it was finally defeated during the Battle of Macragge. And then in 897,
wakey,
and M41, a third new Xenos threat was revealed as the long slumber of the Necrons started to come to an end, the Imperial Shrine at Sanctuary 101 being wiped off the map by Necron raiders. All 3 of these new threats would only grow over the next few centuries. And existing Xenos threats also reared their heads.
Orcs, Eldar. Yeah.
The world of Armageddon was invaded 2 more times in 941 and 997 by the resurgent Orc armies of Gazakul Magaruk Thraka. In 976, War Grok smashed into the Forge world of Ryza, and in 989, even more Orcs from War Snagrod invaded and laid waste to Rin's world, almost destroying the Crimson Fists chapter. The usual rebellions and brushfire conflicts increased, often as a response to increased tithes needed to fight back the tide of aliens. Examples like the Fourth Quadrant Rebellion of the late 700s saw a large part of the segmentum Solar dissolve into anarchy, and the later Badab War of the early 900s was a direct response to the Imperium draining resources from the volatile Maelstrom Zone. By the final decade of the 41st millennium, in the late 900s, the Imperium was embattled from all sides. The Second and Third Tyrannic Wars against Hive Fleet's Kraken and then Leviathan had pressed the Imperium, kicking off war in the Octarius sector and seeing the Blood Angels' homeworld of Baal facing invasion. The Tau's Third Sphere expansion had seen losses to the east, while the Space Wolves' homeworld of Fenris was invaded by Magnus the Red and his 1,000 sons, who summoned their demon homeworld, the planet of the sorcerers, back into real space.
Jeez.
The Astronomicon dip
It just keeps getting worse and worse. Who could save us?
in 999 M41, leading to the unrest known as the Night of 1,000 Rebellions, as chaos cults rose up on planets across the galaxy, to freak awakenings of psychic power across the Imperium, and to astropaths being haunted by waves of alternately terror and complete psychic silence. And then finally, the Eye of Terror opened once more, and in 999, Abaddon the Despoiler's 13th Black Crusade assaulted Cadia, destroying it
There it is.
completely and leading to the spread of the Great Rift across the galaxy as the Eye finally burst its borders, a ripple of warp space crossover that forever divided the galaxy in two.
Remember Cadia.
Great chaos fleets sailed forth from the rift, led by the ancient demon primarchs to ravage the Imperium. The Imperial Palace itself
And that's just by now the traitor Primarchs, they're all demon princes at this point. They are fully monsters.
was even attacked during a second siege by the forces of Khorne, defended this time by the Adeptus Custodes. Whole planets were swallowed up by the rift and turned into demon worlds as the Imperium was split in half. But there was one thread of hope for the Imperium.
Here we go.
At the height of the 13th Black Crusade, and aided by the Inari Eldar, the Ultramar campaign and the Terran Crusade saw Rebute Gilliman healed and
Yeah! King of the Blueberries returns!
resurrected. Forcing his way to Terra, he took swift command of the Imperium, replacing many of the High Lords, communing with the Emperor himself, and assuming the dual titles of Lord Commander, again, and Imperial Regent. With this new power, he declared the Indomitus Crusade, a vast undertaking that folded in all the Imperium's armed forces in order to stabilize and shore up the defenses of Imperium Sanctum,
Now we go on the offensive.
the area of the Imperium on Terra's side of the Great Rift. In his stead, he placed the Blood Angels chapter master Dante in command of Imperium Nihilus, the area on the far side of the Rift. Leading this new Indomitus Crusade were the Primaris Space Marines, the results of a project developed in secret by the Magos Belisarius Call on Gilliman's orders way back during the Scouring. The Crusade initially had thousands of Grey Shield brothers at its fore, but over time they were split off to join embattled Space Marine chapters across the galaxy, swift torchbearer fleets bringing the technology required and scores of reinforcements to chapter homeworlds across the Imperium. And it's this crusade currently ongoing in the lore that gives this new age its name, the Era Indomitus, which is when current 40k is set, and also where this history has to end because they haven't written any further yet. The age of the
Now, this is a year ago, so I'm sure there's been some stuff since then.
Imperium, at least the bit that's most commonly referred to as that, the 10 millennia since the end of the Horus Heresy, has mostly been an age of long, slow decline. Whatever the Emperor had originally planned, the dominance of the Imperium over the galaxy, the slow marshalling and safeguarding of humanity's psychic potential, the starvation of chaos, and even the move to using the ancient webway instead of warp travel, all of that was lost in the fires of the heresy, and the Imperium has become ideologically stuck ever since. The Great Crusade, the great warmongering military power that was the Crusade-era Imperium, was a means to an end, something that would eventually be replaced, moved on from, but because the Emperor was removed halfway through, it's that militaristic Imperium, the one from the Great Crusade, that became the new normal. The Imperium's history since is one of reactions to reactions to reactions, all happening in an attempt to live up to those days. A sudden attack prompts a wave of shame, which prompts an age of religious tyranny, which prompts an age of desperate crusading penance, and so on and so on. Over that period, the Imperium became increasingly weighed down by dogmatic religion and centuries, then millennia of tradition, constantly grinding itself into dust, patching over its failure with new departments and armies. And the tragedy of all that is that it's all done in an attempt to recapture some barely remembered glory days that in reality were only ever meant to be temporary. There's a chance that the era Indomitus will pull the Imperium free of its slow death spiral, but even Robute Guilliman can't totally ignore the monolithic and hidebound organization that it's become, and even if he could, well, he's a product of that militaristic temporary golden age anyway. But there we go. I've made videos in more detail about some of these ages. Links are in the thing below, and I'll probably make more videos going into detail about the others. But that should give you a wide view on how the Imperium has fared over the 10,000 years of its in-game history, and how it ended up where it is in the era Indomitus. Thanks for watching.
Okay, that was a lot to take in, and it's like I said early on when we were going over this. Things were doing all right when Gilliman was in charge. Then he goes on to a nearly 10,000 year forced slumber to regenerate. They resurrect him, and immediately he consolidates, puts everything back on track, so that it has a fighting chance. So I find that fascinating. And I'm sure later on we'll have other discussions, about what Kel brought up while we're going over this. What did the Emperor know? What did the Emperor foresee? All that kind of stuff. And Ian did not spend a lot of time on the Emperor in this, because we saw little bits of that. The Golden Throne. There was one paragraph we saw there on one of the last screenshots of the Golden Throne is breaking, and they don't know how to fix it. It's because remember, the Emperor, what's left of him on the Golden Throne is all that's keeping parts of the warp at bay. So it's fascinating, all the kind of stuff. Honestly, I am rooting for Guilliman. I'm rooting. I hope that he's able to keep stabilizing. We'll see what happens. And I'm sure things will. As far as the lore and the story goes, I'm sure as other loyal Primarchs return, things would get better. You saw that one point Vulcan reemerged, kicked some ass, disappeared again. As soon as the other ones, as they come back, I'm sure things will get better. Because the more loyal Primarchs, the better things will be, because then they're stabilizing forces. Because they were meant to be stabilizing forces. Whew. Whew. And then, of course, will the Emperor ever come back? We don't know. They claim yes and no. There's a lot of Games Workshop bullshit tossed in there, so we don't know. Which era has scantily clad women? Listen, the women of 40K are not considered hot. Let's not do this. There is no eye candy in 40K. Everybody's in armor. Everybody's in armor. Anyway, thank you, Kel. That was a good one. A lot was learned. Some stuff we knew, but see how it's all connected now. All right, with that, it feels like we are at the end of today's show. I got one little thing left. One tiny little thing, just to keep you guys up to date on the retardation of the Disney Star Wars stands. They're really stupid. This hunt for Ben Solo crap continues to be retarded, and these morons actually think sending emails to Bob Iger, Alan Bergman, and other stuff, they think that's a good idea. They really think that's a good idea. They think constantly annoying them on their social media accounts, who, newsflash, these motherfuckers do not run their own accounts. The only one that will listen to you might be the Star Wars admin, because they're fucking retarded like these people. But Bob Iger doesn't run his own account on Instagram or Twitter. Alan Bergman doesn't run these accounts. Do you really think this is smart? No. You're loud and annoying pests who amount to this much. So I just wanted to keep you guys updated. This is their latest thing. Let's send annoying constant letters to the heads of Disney. Let's do that. That's going to work out so well, I'm sure. Good Lord. Just idiots. Complete idiots. All right. With that, we are done for today. All right. Tonight, of course, as usual, since I have nothing planned, I am flirting with a little bit more tactics. If you guys want that, you let me know. I thought we might finish it last night, but we still have a bit to go. And there's, of course, the looming Abyss Dungeon. That's what it used to be called. I don't know what it's called now, but it's got a lot of crap in it. So as soon as that pops up, we will attempt to beat that. Tomorrow, Thursday, I've got nothing planned at the moment. Friday, we got Ballbusters. Saturday Night Drive-In. We're going to be watching Varsity Blues for that discussion there. Roundtable on Sunday. I haven't formed that yet. We have to see how the week goes before I put together a show. Somehow I always do. It's always a wonder to me, but somehow I put it together. Then next week we'll start it off. Another daily dive. And next week you'll get my chat, maybe watches reviews of Predator Badlands because it's not out yet. Can't watch it and review for tomorrow if it's not out yet. So that will come when it comes, ladies. Other than that, remember also this Saturday on Co-op Game Night, Saturday Night Co-op, we're killing bugs. I will be streaming my perspective when we go kill some bugs this Saturday. It'll be a good time. Looking forward to it. Little action oriented. We'll all get angry and shit like that. You know how it works. Anyway, other than that, thank you to all the gatekeepers. Remember, you guys are now the gatekeepers in the chat. You are the gatekeepers. You are here to keep out the riffraff. You are here to guard and protect our franchises from the horrible stands and retarded freaking idiots out there that try to change, the tourists that try to change what we love. I will see you guys maybe later tonight, definitely tomorrow for another daily dive. Have a good rest of your evening. Take it easy, guys. And I'll end it the old school way. Have a good night or day wherever you may be.